Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Good day. Good day to you.
Under his eye.
What?
Isn't that what they say on Handmaid's Tale? They're like, good day, sir, under his eye.
I don't watch The Handmaid's Tale.
Well, this is actually a great, you should, and it's a great
No,
segue
I tried to start watching it. I did.
into
Like
our conversation today.
Yeah, I was just actually wishing you a good day. Highly Uncircumcised. How are you? Wonderful. That's great to hear.
Under his eye.
Like,
Today, we're going to talk about censorship, which is why I say that. It kind of fits in really well. If you haven't watched Handmaid's Tale, it's great. You didn't like it? You didn't enjoy it? I thought
no,
it was
it
pretty
wasn't
amazing.
that I didn't like it. I just watched like the first episode, and it was one of those shows that didn't captivate me. So I think I just didn't revisit it, but I kind of always want to because everybody tells me to watch it. So I assume with all the people that are telling me, it has to be pretty decent.
Well, sometimes that's a problem. If you get to it late, like that's why I never really got into Breaking Bad. Because
I was just about to tell you, like, dude,
yes,
please, for me,
I got to it too late. I did try. I have. I've probably watched 2 seasons, but I'm truly just not into it. I think it's because for so many years I heard everyone's like, "Oh, it's so good, it's so good, it's so," and so it's so hard to get into it. I guess after all of that.
Look at this face right now. Look at this face. Are you looking? Look at this face.
Yes.
Breaking Bad is, honest to goodness, the best show that's ever been on television. That's saying a lot coming from me because I have some shows that I love. Breaking Bad is one of those shows that I actually wish I hadn't seen so I could just go watch it again for the first time. Like, I wish I didn't know what was going to happen. I would totally erase that show from my memory so I could just go rewatch it again. In fact, every year I probably rewatch the entire series. I'll just binge watch it over like 2 weeks.
Wow, that's
It's
2
crazy.
weeks every year.
Yeah, every year since it's gone off there, and I think it's been off now, maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. I watch it probably once a year.
I will tell you that
show.
what's the name of the actor? He's really an amazing
Bryan
actor.
Cranston?
Yes, he is. He is
He's
phenomenal. Yeah, Jinx.
Jinx.
So today we're gonna do something different this week. We're gonna have just one episode because we got a lot to talk about in this one subject, and instead of splitting it up, we're just gonna do one long one and see what you think. But we want to talk about censorship. And for a couple of reasons, but the first being that we got censored. We got censored last week. So if you notice that we did not have an episode on Friday, because we've had one every Monday, Wednesday, Friday since we've started, all of a sudden there was no episode Friday. It wasn't because we didn't make one. It was because we got censored.
Can I tell you, I took it personally. I literally was like, it felt like rejection. I was like, it feels like the girl you're trying to talk to and she just is not giving up that phone number. I was like, dude, you reject me? Out of your mind? What's the matter with you?
Remember that feeling as we get into the talk of censorship, because that's exactly it, right? Like, and so if we want to discuss a bit about what happened, I mean, we want to try and do it without getting censored again. So that's the problem. What we discussed in that episode, and the whole week was about COVID and the Delta variant, and apparently that doesn't get you censored. Although in the beginning, almost sometimes it did. If you didn't have the exact mainstream narrative discussion about COVID itself, you did, right? They don't seem to do that anymore, but we did discuss an alternative therapy, and I can't say the name because apparently I'm guessing is what they did is their algorithms catch that name, and then right away we got shut down. We got shut down because apparently it's harmful to discuss an alternative therapy or cure that is not approved, but that also has no side effects, no ill, and costs $0.
Are you trying to get us suspended again?
I didn't say the name.
So let me just tell you that in all seriousness, so my wife is a nurse, right? So she has her, a good deal of medical training. And I also have a good friend who's a medical student, and I actually was talking to her yesterday, and I mentioned the name of this drug or whatever you want to call it that most likely got us censored, because I guess we don't know exactly why we got censored or whatever. But And she was like, dude, that's been around forever.
It is.
Like,
It's forever.
I was just like, why is it such a big deal to mention it? And she was just like,
because, well, and it's actually not only been around forever, but it's actually, I was telling you that vets and farmers and horse owners use it. It's actually used as a, I can't remember exactly what for, but for horses. So often they'll have it, but it's in the same format that they can also use it for COVID. The problem is, like you said, why would it be banned? It's been around forever. It's not dangerous. It's free. The patent has expired. It's free. That's the question, right? So why, when we talk about using it for COVID, is it now censored? And therein lies a problem with censorship. So let's just get into all of that. So anyways, because we got censored, we want to just talk about the whole idea of censorship and what it's become and what it means through, at social media and private companies and the world in general. And we just have an hour-long discussion about this. We'll just do one this week. Hopefully it doesn't get censored, or we're not going to have any. If they censor an episode on censorship, this is bullshit.
I'm just gonna get on and just record an episode of me just dancing, with butt naked, just with a cat, and then it'll go viral.
It's fine.
Yeah,
but don't talk about real shit, because you will get censored.
No.
Don't talk about trying to save lives for free.
No,
because somebody who's making trillions is losing out if you do that. So you will get censored.
No, I'm talking about Cardi B. I'm talking about the Kardashians. I'm talking about basketball while dancing.
So, let's start with this. What is the official definition of censorship? Anyways, I'm going to go look it up and get like the actual definition of what censorship is.
Give it to me.
According to the dictionary, censorship is the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security.
Do you realize all of that except for maybe the threat to security is subjective?
I think even the threat to security is subjective. I think it all is subjective, and that
if they can give you a clear
problem.
Yeah, if they can give you a clear, this is why it's a threat to security, then that wouldn't be subjective. But if it's just this has a potential for being a threat to security, then it's subjective. But anyway, proceed. I just thought about that when you were reading all those.
Well, I think you're leading yourself to the thought process that I already have about all of it, which is why. So I think a couple of things we want to talk about today is we want to talk about the First Amendment and why it became the First Amendment, which includes freedom of speech, and you want to talk about the entire definition of what it really means, right? We want to talk about censorship, not just in life in general, and in countries right now, like in Cuba. We want to talk about what's going on in the news and with censorship there and why it matters. I want to ask the question, has censorship at any time in any place ever been beneficial for anybody? I want to ask that question. I would love to know. And also we want to talk about, like we said, just the broader implications of social media, which has become our world, right? What happens as we begin to censor on social media, which we are seeing now. And obviously we were censored, right? And what that means for our future. So those are all the things that I'd like to touch on. Obviously we'll probably, expand on that a bit, but maybe we can start with the First Amendment.
So I think there's a huge misnomer, because I always hear people who say stupid shit and then find themselves getting the consequences for stuff they say. Like, people will say something racist, right, or say the N-word, or say something homophobic or something like that, and they'll tout their First Amendment rights. The government does not give you some sort of blanket security for being protected for whatever you say. The First Amendment is simply to protect you from government reprisal from something that you might say about a government entity, official, etc. Meaning, I'm not into Donald Trump. If I got on here and I said Donald Trump sucks and he's the worst president ever and all that kind of stuff, the U.S. government cannot then come arrest me because I have an opinion, right? Mm-hmm. In communist Russia, for instance, potentially Putin and some of his henchmen could definitely, they even tried to kill the guy who's running against him. They tried to poison him or whatever. But anyway, long story short, people just don't understand that the First Amendment doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want to say without consequence. If I own a company, Michael Moore Incorporated, and you, Nicole, are my employee, and you get on Instagram and you say something like, I hate transgender homosexual Muslims, right? That does not mean I cannot fire you as the owner of a private business because you are making my business look bad. You most likely have said something that's completely converse to my own ideologies about people. So I don't want you around me, and I don't have to have you around me because I own the company. But if you, Nicole, said that and you are a government employee, the government establishment that you work for can still fire you. You simply cannot be prosecuted for things that you say. That's all the First Amendment is saying. And people take it so far out of context, it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, to summarize the First Amendment quickly, like one of these articles, it says the First Amendment protects American people from government censorship. That's, that's the quick summary. And that's why in our country, we have the First Amendment, which doesn't allow, you hope, things like what are happening in Cuba right now, right? Where if you are rising up against, what's become a fascist or communist or whatever government, if you are the people rising up against it, then the First Amendment protects us from the government then somehow censoring that or shutting it down, which they're doing in Cuba, right? They've turned off the entire internet. Right.
They've literally turned off the internet connection.
They have, yeah. So if they had our Constitution, they would be in direct violation of the First Amendment. Mm-hmm. In that situation, it would seem to me. But so if that's the case, and it doesn't necessarily, saying I have the right to free speech, I think the First Amendment does say that. But what you said was, in other words, that there's still consequences in life. This is what we teach our children, right? I mean, right. You want to go and punch someone in the eye, okay, but if they punch you, I mean, there's consequences, You're
probably going to get arrested for assault.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, right. There's consequences in life. You that's why you think about those kind of things. So when we take that then into, this is, I think, a good segue to social media, because they are private companies, essentially, right?
They are private companies, not essentially. They are private companies.
But at the same time, they've become worldwide markets. Literally everyone in the entire world is there, right? I mean, not even hypothetically. I mean, almost literally. I think there's like 4 billion, so half the world, right? So I mean, half the world's also too old and too young. So everyone who's capable is on Facebook or has been on Facebook in their life, right?
Okay.
So does that now shift the idea that, well, they can just censor as they choose and they can just decide what people need to see and what they don't, and what is harmful and what isn't? Because what we are seeing, just like on YouTube and just like on Twitter, is that they are censoring what isn't a mainstream narrative. They're taking things down that they feel is harmful, but who says?
So that's certainly a nuanced question, and I probably have a nuanced answer. The short answer is yes. I fervently believe that they should be able to censor and do whatever they want to anybody at any time, because they are a private company, because they have no constitutional commitment to the American public. They're not doing anything that violates the Constitution. Once again, the First Amendment applies to the American government, not American business, right? So if you or I has an issue with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of these platforms, YouTube, censoring something that we say, guess what you have to do? You either have to find a platform that will not censor you, or you need to get busy starting your own internet company. Because there are companies out there, and it might be the one, God, I hate to even give him any sort of positive plug, but the one positive thing that might have come out of a bunch of negative stuff concerning Donald Trump is, I know there's a few platforms that have given rise to a censorship-free environment. Now, sadly, those environments typically are like right-wing, just crazy, far out kook kind of stuff. But I personally am all for people being able to say what people want to say when they want to say it. And I am equally for the consequences they receive.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think that, like, so if somebody wants to say something, let's say it's even like hate filled, like, oh, I hate everybody from a certain country, like, even that, like, okay, so you say we censor that, even that, like, what happens if we just leave it there and because aren't we going to self-censor that person? Aren't we going to not identify with that person, and we're going to be like, no, thank you.
That's the whole point. That's actually the entire point. That's sort of the summation of my thinking. I was walking through a Vegas casino a few years ago with a few friends, and one of the people that I was with, was probably, what?
So what story are you going to tell right now?
Believe me, I'm not going to share anything like personal, but anyway, one of the people that I was with yelled out something very offensive, and me and the other person that we were with just sort of walked off. Like, I don't even want to be associated with that, even though I know this person was probably kind of drunk and whatever, and not that that's an excuse, but anyway. And so anyway, I'm telling you that story to let you know that people will definitely govern themselves as it pertains to their comfort level with whatever something someone is saying, right? So, for instance, back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean like 2-3 years ago, Yahoo, the website Yahoo, right? All their Associated Press articles, all their articles that come out every day and all that. I would read a ton of them, right? And you almost end up finding the commentary below the article more interesting sometimes than the article, but it really began to just spin out of control with just literally the article could be about, I don't know, underwater basket weaving. And somebody would be like, F black people in the comments, right? Now, I tend to think at this point, with the knowledge we have now, that a lot of that stuff was probably just Russian bots, just stirring up stuff pre-election and all that kind of stuff. But it got to the point where Yahoo just discontinued being able to comment on any article ever. If you go to Yahoo right now and you scroll to the bottom, you literally will see like where it says basically we've blocked commentary on this article and da 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 da. Now, at first, I actually kind of thought, okay, cool, because these people are out of control. I'm reading an article about freaking, I don't know, LeBron James winning the championship, and the narrative from the commentary is like, black people this or black people that, and it wasn't always just about black people, but I'm just saying, like, for some reason, there's just a lot of racism that would be in the commentary. But now I've kind of evolved to the point where I'm like, I could be part of the problem because I sort of applaud.
Yeah, we just censor it. We just put it away, and instead of actually working through the issues that, right, like that's what I think about censorship. It is number one is my major question. At what time ever in history have we found that censorship has brought us to greater good? Right. And I actually
go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I feel like there's none. I feel like, I mean, if you think about any time in history, censorship, all it's doing is just like right now, they're attempting to quell people who are working for their freedom in Cuba, people who are rising up against a government that's ridiculous and detrimental.
And it's funny because whoever makes these decisions at the upper echelons of government, I don't think they realize that all you do is galvanize and embolden the people who you are trying to suppress. So it's literally like an example would be a 16-year-old girl dating the bad boy, right? And then her parents are like, stop dating the bad boy. And then what does she do?
Of course.
She goes hard trying to figure out how she can meet up with the bad boy, instead of basically the parents just kind of backing off and giving like loving advice, like he doesn't seem like he's a good dude or something, right? And then she starts to process it for herself, and she has an eye out for this guy's kind of a dick, right? No, you can't be with him. So what does she do? She sneaks out late at night to go be with him. It is literally the same thing on a macro level when they do stuff like they're doing in Cuba, trying to cut off the internet and block the flow of information, because all people do, because people are smart when we actually use our brains, people are very intelligent, they figure out a way to get the information anyway. You're never going to be able to block everything, right?
Well,
And the
not
funny
only
thing,
that, when they figure out a way to get the information, but then also they tend to distrust whatever service is then
right.
blocking, because they're like, but why? You know.
And so then when they distrust you, they start to revolt against you on lower levels. And then those lower levels matriculate up to higher levels. And then before you know it, you've got groups of people at the Capitol building ready to assassinate whoever the leader is. Listen, I think that I don't know. It's like we all have heard the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. How in the world do the powers that be not realize that over the course of human history, censoring your public, your population, your civilian population has never, ever worked?
I think it works in the short term. That's why they're not long-term thinkers. You're right. I think in the
Most
short
bad
term, it works.
ideas do work in the short term.
Of course, but people, the people who think they're very smart and who have negative agendas. But although I mean, I say negative agenda, they truly believe they're right. Right. Again, this is like we talk about all the time on here. Is that like it's hard for us to fathom, but they truly believe whatever they're doing is right. Right.
I don't think so. I don't think so when we're talking about something like this. I don't think the government, the powers to be, think that they're doing something that's right. I think they're doing something that they feel is going to make being in power more easy.
Well, I
Right?
think they think it's for the greater good. If they feel like what they're doing to lead towards their current government, if they think that people don't understand, they can't possibly understand, but it's going to be for their greater good. So then I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. They don't understand that they're the ones that are wrong,
But see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I don't think they're doing it for the better good. I think
Mhm.
they're doing it so that they have an easier time as a politician in their country. They have an easier time dictating and mandating what their population does. I don't think they think this is for the good of the country.
Mhm.
Free societies are scary to politicians.
Mhm.
And America is sort of a free society on steroids because there's so many voices and there's so much ability to rebel and dissent. Politicians now basically simply go to the easiest vehicle for their comfort and ease of longevity in their career, and that thing would be money.
Mhm.
So now they've totally forgotten about the people, and literally lobbyists are the agenda for politicians. And so the funny things, and maybe the conversation is going in a slightly different place, but the funny thing about something like January 6th, right, when all the people showed up at the Capitol and all that kind of stuff, all those right-wing nut jobs in my mind don't even realize that they're honestly fighting for the same things that everybody wants, right? So forget like just political ideology and all that. Everybody just wants to be able to trust that the people who are making decisions for us all have moral character, have moral fiber, have integrity, and are not doing it for the rich, are not doing it for their brothers and sisters and cousins and nepotism and all that kind of stuff, right? We may see things politically different, but I don't think they even realize that their agenda is everyone's agenda. So even if you look at like Black Lives Matter, or you look at people that protest in democratic places like Portland, Oregon, right? I mean, they blew Portland, Oregon up in 2020, the summer of 2020, the hot summer. They were the principal protest was simply, we're tired of people's foots on our neck. And that's what everybody is saying. The Republicans, the Democrats, black, white, other, gay, straight, doesn't matter, transgender. Everybody's simply saying, I want the freedom to live. So that circles back to the whole censorship thing, right? I honestly feel like those who are censored, their feeling is akin to self-preservation and wanting self-preservation. And what I mean by that is like, you feel like when you can't speak, like somebody has their hand over your mouth and you cannot breathe. Like in a real way, when I woke up on Friday morning and I saw that our episode had been censored, and especially knowing what we talked about and how we talked about it, I was just like, we are the most innocuous, like non-threatening two people that are on a podcast in the history of podcasts. We're not like, everybody rise up and freaking go slit the throats of your local politician. I mean, we're literally just engaging in conversation about a current event, COVID-19 and this pandemic, and you're giving your thoughts, and you're giving an example of a medicine that could be beneficial, and I'm saying, well, I don't necessarily know. Give me the information. I'm going to go read about it, and we got censored.
Well, so that's the thing. So if you bring it back around, you said this thing about when you're talking about the government, and we all want, and you made a good point, which has nothing to do with censorship, is that at the end of the day, whether you're far right, far left, middle, we all want the same thing. That's what we don't realize, right? When we stop being so divided, stop worrying about what Republican is and what far right is and what far left is and what a Democrat is, and we realize we're all just human beings that all want the same thing. Someday maybe we'll be able to come together. But censorship as a tool doesn't work. It really divides us even.
It does not work.
But so then that's the question then I have for you. So when you say, okay, you're a private company, you're not beholden to censorship, how does it work for situations where these private companies are now basically running the world? I mean, they're literally running the world. They can direct the narrative. They can run media, right? I'm not saying that you have to force them to non-censor, but I will say that I told you this, that I feel like they're putting the first nail in their coffin on their own by censoring, because
absolutely,
and people will start to look for different alternatives, and it's hard because YouTube and Facebook, and they're all so big. But I truly think a decade from now there'll be something else to compete with them.
There'll be
maybe
sure.
Yes, a number of them, because when you start to do this in a free society, and that's the beautiful thing about our country, we're truly a free society. As much as we want to bitch about it, we have the freedom to bitch about it. And
I think we're free in a lot of ways, but I don't think we're totally.
No, I think we're totally free, except that we choose not to be. We really want to be. I mean, we've had this discussion a lot. A lot of people want the feeling of being safe, and by feeling safe, then that means that they'll give up all their freedoms to do all. No, we can be free, and we are free already.
We can be free, but I don't think we are free, and I'll tell you why. And this might be kind of a funny example, but my first trip to Europe was 3 or 4 years ago, and got to my hotel room and turned on the TV, and honest to goodness, this is no joke, the first thing I saw was a male penis. Okay. The guy was walking around just like naked, and I was like, oh wow, like, the porn channel is on and free here. Like, this is crazy,
the
right?
First one you just turn on the TV is porn.
Literally, I turned on the TV and it was just this naked dude, and I was like, Esther, like, do you see this? Like, it was just crazy to me. Well, anyway, my point is this: went on to realize that this show was literally like the European, like, Bachelor, right? Now, why is this important? Because it dawned on me at that moment, sitting in that hotel room, that we are so incredibly suppressed in America in a lot of ways. Now, I don't need to turn on TV and see male penises and all that. That's
you don't want to see penises everywhere?
I mean, they're whatever, We don't even realize here what not being oppressed looks like. We really don't. We really don't understand it. You have to kind of go around the world, and don't get me wrong, America has a lot of things. Like, when you go around the world, there's a lot of things that you really appreciate about America. But there's certain things that make you think like, wow, like, why are we so just stifled and just stuck on stupid stuff? Like, why can you show a female breast without showing a nipple, right? when men have nipples, right? So it's like,
who decided?
Exactly, like, stuff like that.
And I think that's exactly why we have the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, because when you start censoring, you start making these rules about what you can read and what you can watch, and like all the ideas of like, oh, now they're burning these books and you can't watch Gone with the Wind anymore, and you can't, like, when you start to censor our history, or our past, or even our present, it's like, that's a good word. It stifles our own individual liberties. It's not necessary. We're each of us are incredibly intelligent human beings. We can figure life out, right? We don't need, well, Yeah, I'm sure there's some that are not, but I truly believe in everybody. But I want to take this back to social media really quick because I want to show this. I want to share this article because I thought it was interesting.
By the way, while you're sharing that, let me just tell you the reason why they're cutting off the internet in Cuba is because they're having financial problems, and the people are just like, dude, we're so tired of being poor. It's not even deeper than that. It's literally like an economic just sort of groundswell where people are just like, dude, we need jobs, we need food. It's they're not even protesting their government per se. They're protesting how their government,
Well, that
allows
is
the flow
protesting
of
the
money.
government. If
Yeah,
the
but
government is stifling them, then it is protesting them. But
right,
so this
right,
is
right.
so
But
this is
go
free
ahead.
speech or censorship. This is on social media, right? So because I think this is where I think we can all agree that like censorship from our government, like in the case of Cuba, is just wrong, right? But now when we it becomes sketchy when we get into things like social media and should they do it? And this is an interesting article that a former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy had an opinion. And they wrote this article in 2019, but he said this in 2017 that we cannot appreciate yet its full, talking about the cyber age, the cyber age, a revolution of historic proportions, noting that we cannot appreciate yet its full dimension and vast potential to alter how we think, express ourselves, and define who we want to be. I think that's such a great sentence, considering especially he said that in 2017, because it's so true. I mean, it really defines our entire life if we allow it. And of course, right now we are allowing it, right? And he said that cyberspace and social media in particular was among the most important places for the exchange of views. He compared the internet to a public forum, akin to a public street or park. And when you think about it like that, like a public street or a park or a public forum, there's not, censorship in those areas, right? Again, I'm not saying that this is a really good article. The whole thing is from like ABA Journal. If you want to go back and read it, free speech or censorship. I'm not saying that the government should get in and say to these corporations, oh, you can't censor. But I am saying that, like, number one, we're not stupid, right? And so I think that you are basically signing your own death warrant when you start to censor your population. So I think things like and not only a little bit, but Facebook's even ramping it up right now. It's like, first they censored, so we would have, if we had put that post of that video that we got censored on YouTube on Facebook, I'm sure it would have got censored there as well. They're also ramping up their efforts, not only censoring things that don't adjust to the mainstream narrative, but also now they're asking questions like, do you know an extremist? Are you worried that there's an extremist in your life, right? Especially if you follow somebody who they might think is an extremist or is not following the mainstream narrative. I follow quite a few of them, so I get the question all the time. And none of these people are extremists in ways that they would make you think. These are just people trying to tell the truth as they see it, right? Trying to offer an alternative view than what you will see on CNN and NBC and ABC and all of them, right? So that's my question too, is that, okay, I mean, if you want to use your platform to censor, just be really careful and understand that we are all different and we are all going to think differently. And that when you start doing that, you're basically casting aside half of your clientele, and we're going to choose other options, right? So I wish they wouldn't have to do. I wish they would just realize, that even if people have different thoughts than you do, that you don't need to censor it like this.
So let me play devil's advocate and ask you a question, okay? So, knowing where you live, I know there's like a beautiful park over there and it's close to the water and it's like a really cool place to be. If I lived out there, I'd be there all the time, right? What if there was a group of men in that park every day on loudspeakers, microphones, advocating the rape of women, right? Would you want to call the police and have them remove? Like, how would you handle something like that? I'm just curious.
Normally my MO is to walk away, but somebody's going to beat their ass. Like somebody is, right? Like that's
But
not
this
going to
is
get.
your park. This is your place of peace. This is where you go, walk the dogs, take the kids, right?
And I would go somewhere else. I mean, that's just the thing. This
You
is a
just
big,
simply
this is
find
a,
some place else to go.
yes, this is a big world. I mean, it happens around here. People who are not from LA don't know that there's an incredible homeless population, especially at the beach, right? And a lot of them have drug issues, and so they're yelling out things. There's like, "Oh, fuck you," and like sometimes right in your face. You're like, "Holy shit!" Like what? I mean, you walk the other way. You go on your merry life, right? Do I want them to say that? No, but that's the thing, is like, who am I? What if what I'm yelling is like, I love roses and flowers, and that really offends them? They want to fucking censor me, like,
God, I hate that lady that says she
I
loves
gotta
roses
hate
and
her.
flowers.
Why?
She's
Yes,
so annoying.
call the cops.
You
I
seen
mean,
her?
that's the thing, is like, and the idea when you see some of these people who are definitely for the censorship, you see some of their comments like, oh yeah, that's harmful. It's a harmful rhetoric to say that there could be an alternative, better, that's free. Like, well, how is that harmful? Like, so again, it's just not understanding different viewpoints.
But is there, I'm asking, I guess I'm using obviously an extreme example, right? But I'm really asking you, is there a point at which speech should be censored?
No.
And activities should be censored?
And
So
not broad,
anything,
not broad. Okay, so you're talking about like self-censorship versus broad overall
no. I'm talking about like literally, like, again, using the park by your house. Like,
no
would you
broad
ever
censorship.
advocate for police to come and break a group of people up that were like not being violent to people or anything like that, right? So there's nothing that's directly harming you except for the things that they're saying. It'd be akin to me like essentially going to a park and there's just a bunch of neo-Nazis and they're yelling out just ridiculously.
Heil Hitler.
Well, much worse than that for me. I mean, they could just be using the N-word and stuff like that towards me. But my attitude might be a little different. Like, I wouldn't want to just find a new place, right? I guess what I'm probably contradicting myself a little bit here, because I feel like maybe there are times when
but who gets to decide? That's
when
the
decency
thing, right?
is warranted,
but what's
right?
decency?
Exactly. So like, again, like, what's
That's
obscene, right? I love this one quote I've heard over many years, like back in the day when they were kind of arguing the legality of pornography and stuff back in this, and I think it had to do with what's his name, Larry Flint, when he was going through all his stuff back in the day 40 years ago. Anyway, one of the judges or whatever basically said, I don't know what pornography, or no, I don't know how to define pornography, but I know what it is when I see it, right? So essentially what he's saying is we all have like a sort of meter of what,
and we all will self-censor, right? Like, you'll walk away, you'll beat somebody's out, you'll whatever. But I think a broad censorship, where somebody decides for the good of everybody else what's harmful and what's not, is never good. I don't believe. No. Because you don't get to decide
on any level. I don't think so. There's never
again self-censorship. So, right? Like, you run across somebody who is you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to be by them. You can start a campaign against what they're saying. You can, right? Very different. Like that's taking personal responsibility and handling your own life. I do not believe there should ever be an overall censorship campaign for the good of society ever, because who's running it and who decides and who do you get to say for me? The society is 8 billion people, by the way, if we're talking about our world. There is no way, shape, or form there's any way that you can shelter and keep safe all of us by censoring part of us. You just cannot. Like
and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but if you think about it in this context, censorship takes on many different forms. Okay, it takes on many different forms in many different areas of life. For instance, let me ask you another question. So you go to work for a company that doesn't believe in hiring Black people or Muslims or
well,
atheists.
that's discrimination, right? That's different than censorship.
Well, but doesn't that sort of all fall under the umbrella of censorship? And I'll tell you why. Because these companies like this that are found to have these kind of policies or these kind of practices, they get sued, and millions of dollars have to be spent to certain people, and all of that, because people don't agree with their practices, ideologies, political views, whatever. Is that not a form of censorship, awarding you or I, as a minority or a woman, I'm a Black person, uh, awarding us money for being treated a certain way by a certain company? Like, doesn't that sort of fall in the same, under the same umbrella?
No, because I think that's equality. That's why there's discrimination, and there's, if the idea that we're all equal and free, right? And that's another one of the amendments or whatever, the declaration, whatever it is, right? Like, and we're living up to that ideal, then we hold people accountable. It's consequences, like you said, right? It's not censorship, it's consequences. And so you can not hire Black people if you want. Go ahead, don't hire them. But then you face the consequence. But that's what I'm
but that's my point, Nichoel. If it's a private company, right? It's not
I say they can.
Government entity.
They can, but I think if I were them and I were smart, I would not do it.
No, obviously we agree. I mean, I think if you're still comporting yourself as a company like that in 2021, you're pretty dumb. But I'm just, for the sake of this conversation, I'm trying to give you an extreme sort of high level view of the umbrella of censorship, right? Because if we're talking about Facebook, let's just keep it on the social media. Facebook had a policy written down in their handbook: we don't want Black engineers. They wrote it down. Should Facebook be
so stupid? Like, how do you write that down?
You're responding as though what I'm saying is supposed to make sense. I'm not saying that this makes sense. I'm just giving you an example to spark thought. If they had that policy and then are able to be sued by me as an engineer, and I can't get hired at Facebook and I want to go work for Facebook, right? Should I be awarded money by our government, because the judicial system is a branch of our government, right? Should I be awarded money because Facebook says they don't want to hire Black people, as opposed to what you're saying, which is talking about self-censorship, right? So everybody finds out Facebook doesn't want to hire Black people. So what do? They get off of Facebook. Everybody self-censors and gets off of Facebook. I'm trying to find out how far your mind works in terms of there not being any sort of outside influence on the mindset of company and people. And by the way, companies are seen as people legally. Go look at the Citizens United.
If we're talking about the government, I think there should be none. I mean, I think whatever that means on whatever scale I am on, I think the government is there to serve us, not to decide what we need. It's to decide to give us, to serve us and provide us what we need, not to decide and then, and then enforce what they think we need.
See, I have to give that more thought, because you can sort of extrapolate that out to many different areas of government, right? Like, for instance, I mean, do we need stoplights, right? Who decided we need stoplights? We should all just be smart enough to slow down when we see another car coming.
Well, no, I think that's what happens in society. So in society, generally, we found like, oh, we run these studies. We see like, oh, well, there's all these cars on this block, and who knows how that all even started. But they thought, well, if we actually do this, and they figured it out for the safety of their people. What I'm asking then, so if you say, well, at some point isn't censorship safety? Tell me, has there ever been in all of history a point where it really did save us? I don't think so. I think if you look back and look at all the moments of whenever there's mass censorship on any platform, whether it's government or where, like it was only detrimental. Right? Like, so
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. In fact, I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate, trying to go deeper into your thought process on this. I mean, I think it's pretty clear if you look at the most highly censored people on earth, you will see that they are also the most oppressed people on earth. You have to look at some place like North Korea, right? You have to look at Cuba. You have to look at China, right? And by the way, most of these places fall the highest on the human rights violations list as well.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just a slope, but like that's why it's the First Amendment for a reason. And I put in social media there because it is different. It's private companies, but if they would think about it in this way, I think they would serve their customers better. Like, and also it makes me just question their agenda. It seems like they have a certain agenda that's serving themselves, because it doesn't seem like it's like, oh, let me save these people by not letting them see this harmful story, right? So it makes, it's unfortunate, I think, that they would decide to go that route, but they have, all of them have. And you can see, though, even like Jack from Twitter, like you can see his politics, and you can see it in the way that he censors. And so it's just like, yeah, you're right. It's your private, it happens to be worldwide. Everyone in the world happens to use it, but it is your private company. You want to censor, go ahead. I just truly think that you're doing your own self a disservice, and you're gonna put yourself out of business.
So oddly enough, as much as I find myself on the opposite side of the universe as Donald Trump, when Twitter and Facebook banned him, I think
that's terrible.
I
How
was
can
like,
you ban a president?
This is a horrible precedent. Like,
Yeah.
we are really on a slippery slope here. Like, I don't want to hear 99.9% of the stuff that he says, because I think it's ridiculous. But those who want to hear what he says should have a right to hear what he says.
Well, and just like I talk about the private companies, like kind of put a nail in their coffin. If you're going to talk about Democrats and Republicans, I think they put their first nail in the coffin with Trump, with Hillary, and then with Trump, and they keep adding more and more, and they're pushing themselves out of the government, I believe. But hopefully it's just going to go much more moderate. That's what I hope. That's where I am, right in the middle. But unfortunately, what's going to happen is it's going to be much more extreme, right? Because that's what they're doing, and that's a problem. They're being extreme, right, on their side by doing this, by censoring, by suppressing voices of the right, by dividing us further, by saying, oh, anyone who says anything, oh, they're far right, they're extreme, right? Like, you don't understand, like, by doing that, you create this greater divide. You just need to see all the voices, all of them, and you understand.
Which is exactly what I was going to say in response to everything you're saying right now, because in my mind, there's really only one of two outcomes with the way that America is slipping down this slope, and that is civil war, which is a possibility. I love how people just think like nothing like that can happen here in America until you see everyone storming the Capitol, right? That's just like the tip of the iceberg.
I mean, we're almost at the point of civil unrest if we allow it. Or if we looked at social media, or the news, we would say that we are at the point of civil unrest. We are the point where we are incredibly divided. I want to say something else about that, though, that if we did turn all of that off, we would realize we're not. But it's such a big part of our lives, and that's my problem with the censorship. That
we have much more in common than we have that divides us, and there are certainly powers that be that want to keep us divided, because it actually puts money in their pocket to keep us divided. But what I was going to say is there's one of two outcomes in my mind: civil war, or literally the American government turning on its own people. And governments have done it throughout the course of human history. So it's not unprecedented, and it's not implausible for this country just because we happen to be the richest, most powerful country on earth. Because guess what? So was Rome, right? I mean, there have been countries and regimes that have run the earth for a certain period of time until they collapsed from within. Usually it's not even powers outside the country, right? It's not like some war where the country is defeated, right? Usually the collapse of great civilizations happens from the inside. So I think that stuff like, again, banning Donald Trump from speaking, low-level stuff like censoring Highly Uncircumcised on YouTube, it, honest to goodness, is...
Censored me? How do you censor me?
Oh, I was like, you know, you're censoring me? Are you out of your mind?
Well, but I would even say this about Donald Trump is not only that, not only like, I was never a Donald Trump supporter. I never watched the news, and I didn't read anything he said on Twitter. People would read at the table and we would laugh. And but to be fair, now that they've censored him, I've gone to rethink my past and think, well, maybe they did just show him all negative. Maybe the media wasn't. It's made me rethink. It's actually done them a disservice, because now it's made me think, well, fuck, maybe he wasn't as bad as they said he was. Maybe right?
You've gone too far.
Well, but this is what censorship does. Is like, if right, like it
No, he is as bad and ridiculous as he is described as in the news media or wherever else. He certainly is. I happen to think he's a
Anyway, it's
reprehensible
not
human
about
being,
him. It's not
but
about him.
exactly, but you censoring him is really a much bigger deal than
It's
anything he had to
worse.
say. And they
Yes.
censored him basically because they said that he was inciting violence with his rhetoric. But the thing is, I don't think you understand that once you censor a person for inciting violence, those people who were able to be incited to violence only get angrier. They only get more upset. They have no outlet for that anger. So guess what? They show up at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th and look for Nancy Pelosi to hang, and a bunch of other people. Oh God, why can't I just run the government? Seriously,
You can.
like, what? No, I mean, would you vote for me? Can I?
Of course,
I honestly need to get into the U.S. Government on some level. I either need to just start out in Arcadia and
Yep. Start at city council.
become a councilman, and then someday become a representative for somewhere in California, and then on until you then have to salute me because I'm your president.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome. You would definitely be in my cabinet, Nichoel Juergens. You would be the Minister of
Working
Defense.
nowhere on your cabinet ever.
You'd be the Minister of Defense.
Be sitting at the table and you'll be like, "Can you go to?" I'm like, "Shut the hell up." Like, you talk to the president like that.
I'd be like, hey, you can't talk to me like that in front of everybody else. They'd be like, Mr. President, we want to talk about Minister Juergens, and he just really seems to be like hard to get along with. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's why we hired her. That's why we hired her.
Anybody. Yeah. She hates everybody. So anyways, that was her whole like spiel on censorship. I think that it's something that I hope doesn't become broad. I was hoping it seemed like they did lessen up because they were really going hard. Now they hire all the fact checkers, which is all just like bullshit. Who the fuck are the fact checkers? They hire the fact checkers to make sure it's.
You mean like checking the facts of what someone says?
Right. And then, but these fact checkers found this, and so then it's censored, and like, I think we're going the wrong way in terms of all media. Obviously, that I don't agree with much of it anymore. But also, I'm kind of glad they are hitting this breaking point because that's exactly what they're doing. They are putting the nail in their own coffin. It'll take time, but it's all going to change because in a free society, we won't live like that. And as long as we remain free, even though some of us choose not to be, we'll make choices that will allow us to be free, not keep us censored. So sorry, Facebook, but sorry, YouTube. But you're probably not going to be around forever. Unless you change your shit. Fix your shit. Now I'll get banned.
The views expressed in this program are that of Nichoel Juergens and not Michael Moore.
I'm not scared. I'm not scared. Go ahead, ban me. I'm gonna go.
Everybody know you ain't scared. Listen. Everybody know you ain't scared. That's exactly why you're the Minister of Defense. Just relax, okay? Just don't say that word ever again. They got us censored, and let's just keep it pushing.
Don't say that highly beneficial, incredibly cheap drug that has no side effects.
Wait, can we spell it?
No, that you could use to cure yourself from COVID. Do not say that because people with trillions of dollars want to give you a jab and they want you to take that.
There's nothing wrong with a little jab every now and again.
Yeah, get a little jab. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get one every now and again. The way they're doing it is gonna be like every other month. The way they're doing it.
You're gonna need an 18th booster.
You're gonna need. Have you gotten your 89th booster yet? Oh, you can't travel. You don't have the 89th booster. I see here you have 88.
Wait, but I have my 87 other cards to show you. Are you kidding me right now?
If we allow it, this is what they will do. And there are people out there that want this stuff, right? But I have to say, I hope that the majority of our society does not.
Let me just tell you, I'm only willing to take 2 more boosters.
Wow. So that's the line. That's the line, huh? Then after that, no more?
I'm standing up. I am only willing to take 6 more boosters. Okay. I'm a principled man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You can only give me 12 more boosters. That's it. And then I'm calling it a wrap.
Okay, 36, final number.
If it's 42, fine, but don't go past 43.
Oh God. And I will stick hard at 0. So
I'm just waiting for the video of you being thrown down on the street and someone putting a needle in your hamstring. Someone just jabbing you in the hamstring. I'm gonna get on here and I'll be like, I told her they were gonna do that. I don't know why she was fighting it.
Oh, if we live in that society, that's gonna be scary. That is gonna be scary if that's where we go. But hey.
People calling me, telling me, did I see the video of Nicole getting vaccinated? Hey, I tried to warn her like 2 years ago. I told her they were gonna get ugly.
I'm using the medicine I can't name. I don't need it. I'm using the free one. I'm safe. I'm healthy. No, no.
Hail YouTube.
And that'll be our last word on that. Please don't ban us, YouTube.
Please don't. We're so nice. Don't ban us.
Otherwise, we'll just go somewhere else. That's okay. I mean, we have 60 like subscribers, so
everybody follow us. Follow us to freedom.
Freedom.
Mercy.
Well, this is the only episode this week, so I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know if you have some comments. We'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.